Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside will reach a high of 95.1 degrees Fahrenheit today, with a low of 67.8 degrees. It's going to be a warm one, so remember to stay cool, drink plenty of water, and seek shade if you're spending time outdoors. Coming up on Alex's News, we'll be discussing a significant development concerning President Trump's nuclear strategy and how it might unexpectedly play into the hands of Russia. We'll break down the potential implications of this maneuver. Plus, we'll examine why California's ambitious housing programs are now facing substantial challenges from the federal government, exploring what this could mean for residents across the state. All this and more coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. We begin today with a significant and highly public development in international relations. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the repositioning of nuclear submarines closer to Russia. For the full picture, let's go to our national security reporter, Ethan. Ethan, this certainly seems like a dramatic move.
It certainly does, Grace. On August 1st, 2025, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he had ordered 2 U.S. nuclear submarines positioned as a precautionary measure. He confirmed their deployment just a few days ago, on August 4th, 2025. This, he stated, was a direct response to, quote, highly provocative statements from Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council.
What did Medvedev say that was so provocative, leading to such a strong nuclear posture?
Medvedev made unsettling remarks on July 31st, 2025. Responding to a prior Trump ultimatum on a Ukraine ceasefire, he described Trump's threat as a step towards war. Most significantly, Medvedev alluded to Russia's dead hand system, which, according to various sources, is widely interpreted as a veiled but direct nuclear threat against the United States.
Dead hand. Can you quickly explain that chilling term for our viewers?
Absolutely. It is a semi-automated nuclear weapons control system from the Soviet era. It is designed to launch a retaliatory nuclear strike automatically if Russia's command and control systems are destroyed in a first strike. Trump himself stated his actions were, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that, emphasizing the critical importance of words.
So Medvedev is essentially invoking a doomsday device. How does the Kremlin typically use a figure like Medvedev in their strategic communications?
Analysts, including the Institute for the Study of War, or ISW, note Medvedev serves as what they call a useful foil for Trump. This allows for criticism without directly implicating President Putin. The Kremlin likely uses Medvedev for plausible deniability and psychological warfare, articulating extreme positions too risky for Putin to voice directly. This helps maintain Putin's image as more reserved and as part of Russia's broader global knowledge warfare.
Fascinating. So they can float extreme ideas without Putin having to take direct ownership. How then has the Kremlin reacted to President Trump's public submarine moves?
Interestingly, Grace, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has publicly downplayed the U.S. submarine deployments. He stated Russia has no desire for retaliatory escalation and stressed caution regarding nuclear rhetoric, asserting, quote, there can be no winners in a nuclear war, end quote. Vladimir Putin himself has remained publicly silent, suggesting an internal portrayal that Trump is overreacting to what they view as deliberate Kremlin, quote, nuclear saber rattling.
Yet Russia hasn't been entirely passive, have they? It sounds like a complex nuclear chess game.
No, they certainly haven't. Despite Peskov's public dismissal, Russia has reportedly repositioned 4 nuclear-capable bombers closer to Europe from their Murmansk and Saratov regions. Both sides seem to be playing a very high-stakes game of nuclear chess.
President Trump's public announcement of these submarine movements breaks decades of traditional secrecy. What is the strategic thinking behind that, typically guarded for tactical advantage?
That is a key question, Grace. Such movements are typically guarded for tactical advantage and second strike deterrence credibility. Some analysts, like Stephen Pfeiffer of Stanford University, view Trump's order as a rhetorical or symbolic escalation, suggesting the public announcement is a, quote, psychological ploy to demonstrate resolve rather than a substantial military one, given existing U.S. nuclear capabilities.
So, a show of force, rather than a deep tactical shift?
Precisely. However, ISW and others suggest Trump's public and escalatory response could inadvertently play into the Kremlin's strategy. By directly reacting to Medvedev, Trump might elevate his perceived influence, amplifying the Kremlin's psychological warfare and lending credibility to a figure designed as a useful foil. It could shift focus from Putin, allowing Putin to appear more moderate while the U.S. reacts to a secondary actor. It is a very delicate nuclear tango.
Indeed. Beyond the military posturing, what other pressures is the Trump administration applying to Russia?
The Trump administration is also applying economic pressure. His advisor, Stephen Miller, cited India's oil trade as justification for a proposed 25% tariff on Indian imports. This is an attempt to squeeze Russia's oil revenues. While Indian and Chinese officials have shown little sign of stopping Russian oil purchases, India has reportedly begun to adjust its stance. And within Russia, despite public dismissal of sanctions, markets have reacted with ruble depreciation and increased bond yields, indicating an internal acknowledgement of potential economic impact.
And diplomatically, there is a very significant deadline approaching, correct?
Yes, Grace. Diplomatically, Trump is dispatching Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow ahead of a very significant Friday deadline for Russia to agree to a deal. That is just 3 days away, on August 8, 2025. This signals a hardened U.S. position to press for a ceasefire in Ukraine. The effectiveness of Trump's posturing in pressing Putin ahead of this deadline remains hotly debated. It is a nuclear chess game with very little time left on the clock.
Ethan, thank you for navigating this incredibly complex and potentially explosive situation for us. We appreciate your insights.
My pleasure, Grace.
Welcome back, everyone. For our second story this morning, we are turning our attention to California's perennial housing crisis. A new federal lawsuit directly challenges the state's affordable housing framework. Reporter Chloe is here to unpack this complex issue. Chloe, what's the latest development?
Grace, it is a significant one. A new federal lawsuit, Time Wesley U versus City of East Palo Alto, challenges inclusionary zoning laws. These laws require developers to include affordable housing units or pay a fee.
Who is Wesley U, and what's his challenge?
Wesley U is an East Palo Alto homeowner. According to U.S. News and World Report via the Associated Press and Housing Wire, he planned a home and guest cottage. East Palo Alto's ordinance required him to set aside an affordable unit or pay a $54,891 fee. U, represented by the Pacific Legal Foundation, calls this requirement unconstitutional, quote, extortion, end quote.
What legal precedent is he using?
He is leveraging a pivotal U.S. Supreme Court ruling from last year, Deems versus County of El Dorado, California. That unanimous April 12, 2024, decision held that government-imposed building permit conditions, like fees, must meet, quote, essential nexus, end quote, rough proportionality, end quote tests.
Explain those terms for us.
Simply put, Grace, quote, essential nexus, end quote, means a direct connection between your project's impact and the fee. Quote, rough proportionality, end quote, means the fee must be roughly equivalent to that impact. The timesheets ruling extended these tests to citywide ordinances. U's team argues his modest project does not justify the fee.
What are the broader implications if U's lawsuit succeeds? Could this truly shake up California's housing policy?
It absolutely could, Grace. Many California cities use inclusionary zoning. If the court sides with you, it could jeopardize hundreds of programs statewide and potentially undermine affordable housing efforts nationwide, according to U.S. News and World Report and HousingWire. The initial case management conference for Courting Times Wesley U. versus City of East Palo Alto is scheduled for October 29, 2025, just 85 days away.
This case also fuels the debate. Does new market rate development improve or worsen affordability?
It is a contentious debate. The plaintiff argues new market rate development positively impacts affordability, with some researchers suggesting that increasing overall housing supply eventually, quote, filters down, end quote. However, other evidence indicates new high-end development can contribute to gentrification and displacement, particularly for low-income residents.
Are there other housing policies facing similar challenges?
Yes, Grace. Senate Bill 9, or SB 9, aimed at increasing housing density, also faced a significant challenge. Several Southern California charter cities sued, arguing SB 9 infringed on their local land use rights. Notes Servicing Center reported that on April 22, 2024, a Los Angeles County Superior Court judge ruled in favor of these cities, declaring SB 9 unconstitutional for charter cities. The Attorney General's office plans to appeal.
Chloe, thank you for breaking down this complex and crucial issue. It sounds like California's housing future is hanging in the balance.
My pleasure, Grace.
We appreciate your insights. Here are some other headlines. In science news, a critical NASA satellite mission is facing a burning question about its future. The Orbiting Carbon Observatory, or OCO, which provides what scientists call the gold standard of data on global carbon dioxide and plant health, is facing potential intentional destruction. A directive, reportedly from the Trump administration, asked NASA to plan for the satellite's deorbiting, which would cause it to burn up in the atmosphere. Researchers and farmers, who rely on the mission's invaluable data for climate modeling and crop forecasting, are alarmed. The potential loss of this data stream could leave a significant void in our ability to monitor key climate indicators. In response, NASA has put out a call for private entities to possibly take over the costs of maintaining a similar instrument aboard the International Space Station, but the future of the standalone satellite remains up in the air. In the world of technology, some experts are warning that the impact of artificial intelligence on the workforce is being artificially underestimated. A new report argues that traditional economic models, which predict that new jobs will replace those lost to technology, are failing. The problem, they say, is that AI is becoming a, quote, universal worker, capable of not only replacing existing jobs, but also filling the new roles that emerge. This view is shared by many AI researchers and the general public, who are far more pessimistic about the job outlook than most economists. The shift is already being felt, with reports indicating AI was a factor in over 10,000 job cuts in July 2025 alone. Experts are now urging policymakers to prepare for a major workforce transition, suggesting that simply letting the market sort itself out may not be enough to handle this technological revolution. Down in Arkansas, a new state law has been met with a judicial "thou shalt not." A federal judge has issued a preliminary injunction, temporarily blocking 4 school districts from enforcing a new mandate to display the 10 Commandments in every public school classroom and library. In his ruling, Judge Timothy Brooks called the law plainly unconstitutional and part of a quote states to inject Christian religious doctrine into public school classrooms. The lawsuit was filed by the ACLU and other groups on behalf of several Arkansas families who argued the law imposes a specific religious view on a captive student audience. The state's attorney general is reviewing the decision, but with similar laws being challenged in Louisiana and Texas, this issue may be destined for the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, the race to fill Senator Mitch McConnell's seat is turning into a battle over his long and complex legacy. The leading Republican candidates are all vying for the endorsement of President Donald Trump, and they're doing it by strategically positioning themselves against the retiring senator. Businessman Nate Morris is running an aggressive campaign, promising to, quote, trash Mitch McConnell's legacy. In contrast, former Attorney General Daniel Cameron, once a McConnell protege, and Representative Andy Barr are offering more measured critiques, all while branding themselves as America First loyalists. The contentious primary has exposed deep divisions within the Kentucky GOP, highlighting the ongoing struggle between the party's establishment wing and its more populist, Trump-aligned faction. And finally, overseas in Argentina, President Javier Milei is making it clear there's no change in his pocket for pensioners. The self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalist leader has vetoed a bill passed by Congress that would have increased pension and disability benefits. Milei defended the move as essential to his non-negotiable vow to eliminate the nation's fiscal deficit, stating bluntly, "There is no money." This is a key part of his chainsaw austerity plan, which has successfully slashed inflation, but has also deepened economic hardship, pushing many retirees below the poverty line. The veto sparked outrage from opposition lawmakers, who called it a, quote, policy of cruelty, but Milei has vowed to fight any attempt to override his decision in court. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.